Here we go.
Hi, is it Leah? Leah?
Leia is my daughter.
Leah.
I think we set this up for her school Zoom at one
Nice.
point. We had the same issue when I was playing Among Us during ng-conf.
That's okay. Leia's a cool name.
It is.
I kind of
I
like
like
it.
how you have the accent mark in there too. Is that French?
It is.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. Everybody, this is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And in a second here, I'm going to invite other people to become panelists if you would like to. One of the best things about the meetup format is that we can all participate together. Okay, but before I do that, let me say thank you to our sponsors. They are Thinkster, ng-conf, and HeroDevs. And we are actually using ng-conf's Zoom, and they have provided most of our prizes for the attendees. So thank you so especially to ng-conf and HeroDevs for lending us Aaron Frost today. So that was pretty cool of him to lend himself.
That was cool.
And your family to lend you too.
Yeah.
So thank you. All right, if you are here, you agree to adhere to the code of conduct, okay? So if you don't know what the code of conduct is, I will put a link into chat that I expect you to open and read and agree with. And if you do not agree with it, you can always leave. Where's my notes? Where's my chat? Brooke, can you do that? I can't find the chat.
Absolutely.
It's always happens. Oh, it's under the more button. There you go.
Oh, did you get it?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you,
Okay.
though.
Yeah.
All right. Now is when I invite you to engage with us. If you would like to show your camera and use your mic, you're welcome to do so. However, be respectful to our presenters, and even more than that, be careful what's on the wall behind you, because not everybody has the same taste in art, and what might be appropriate to you may not be appropriate to the ng-conf code of conduct. So let's do our best to make everyone feel comfortable. And regarding the code of conduct, I just want to say it helps us have a really great and fun event for everyone. So let's make sure that we focus on that.
Nice. Okay, Preston's coming through. Who else wants to come on? Raise your hand for me.
Yeah, you can raise your hand, or you can send a message in chat. Jose says that wants to engage. Okay. In the next part, I want to let you guys all know about this amazing Reliable Web Summit. The Reliable Web Summit is a brand new conference put on by the creators of ng-conf, and it will be a summit conference on building reliable web applications. It's not Angular specific, but ng-conf is our sponsor, and we love supporting them. So,
wait, can I actually say something on that too?
Yes, please.
I'm currently writing an email that's supposed to go out tomorrow morning, but the CFP for this is open. And we have Justin Searles, who's going to be our keynote speaker. If you did not see his talk from ng-conf 2017, please go on our YouTube and watch it, because it was really an amazing talk. But we need more speakers, and we would love to have any of you submit. It's pretty much along, like, we want talks that talk about maintainability, scalability, and testability. So anywhere in those three areas is kind of what we're looking for. But the CFP is open until May 15th. And then I want to let you know that on Friday, this coming Friday, so just 3 days from now, 2.5 days from now, Aaron and Joe Eames will be doing the office hours for that. So if you're not quite sure what to submit on, or if you have questions about how to do that process, come meet us on it's the new Reliable Web Summit YouTube channel, and I can get you the link for that. But that's going to be Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So don't miss that.
I want to note that the prices are really much lower than they will be in the future. So check out those early bird prices on tickets. Or you could win a prize today. And the prize, one of the prizes is a free ticket to the Reliable Web Summit. So that is the top prize for today. But every single meetup that we have, we're going to be giving prizes out, as long as we have prizes to give out. And so I will be preparing while you guys are speaking, Frosty, Yvonne, and Chris, a quiz. And if you are the top scorers on that quiz, meaning you went the fastest through the questions and you answered them all correctly, you could win a prize. So the top 5 scorers today will all get prizes. So that's pretty exciting. Second prize is going to be a 6-month Thinkster Pro membership. Third and fourth prize will be $50 gift cards for Amazon. And the 5th prize will be a free course on Deno by GDE Preston Lamb. And I do want to welcome Preston Lamb, our GDE guest here today. It's also from Utah, which is pretty fun. So now's the time when I ask one of the prize sponsors to come on. We'll start with Michael Callahan, who's representing company for this prize sponsor spotlight. So is Michael Callahan one of the panelists?
I'm here.
All right, perfect.
You'll never guess who I'm representing tonight.
No, I won't.
Seriously, you won't, because it's not Disney.
Dead mouse.
So I have a little over 2 months ago, I signed up with a company called pullrequest.com, and it's helped me become a better pull request code reviewer at work, at my day job. And they asked me the other day, do you know anyone else that might be interested? We're really lacking Angular talent. So I talked to Erik, and Erik agreed that if they sponsored tonight's meetup, they could provide us with a video. So I'm going to share that now, if that's okay, Erik. You guys can see that? I'm sorry, you all can see that?
Yes.
Hey there, this is Peter from Pull Request. Thanks for giving us the time to share a bit about us and what it's like to become a pull request reviewer. In a nutshell, we offer code review on demand for clients across the world through experts in various different languages and frameworks, so maybe someone like you. Code review is done in our in-network browser, which is similar to Bitbucket, GitHub, GitLab, but with a few extra features in like an IDE. So what's it like to become a pull request reviewer? First, you can earn a significant side income where some reviewers earn more than $3,000 a week. We pay weekly and we offer a very competitive rate. And then there's no minimum time commitment. Really, you can just review whenever you have spare time. So think Uber meets Stack Overflow. Then we offer an unparalleled advisory experience where you can review hundreds of developers from teams across the world from various different sizes, including like startups, early stage startups, and Fortune 500 companies. So if you have any other questions, see the frequently asked questions or sign up on pullrequest.com, go to reviewers and then select become a reviewer. Ultimately, we're looking for senior level developers and architects who are passionate about code review, who really want to make an impact for teams across the world, and then you just want to improve the code quality for years to come. So sign up and thanks.
I can tell you all that I've been bringing in about $500 a week just in my spare time at pull request. I love it. Sometimes you get a pull request that's 30 lines long. My biggest was about 2,000 lines long. Took me an hour and a half to review, made $150. So if you think you got what it takes, go to pullrequest.com and sign up.
All right. Thanks, Michael Callahan. And if you're interested in that, go check it out. Preston Lamb, would you like to say anything about your course?
Sure. So I released this course a couple months ago. It's just a quick, about an hour-long course on getting started using Deno. So it comes with the course, and you can get access to a little ebook that goes along with it as well. And it's I think whoever wins that prize, I hope you like it. It'll be pretty. I think it's going to be Deno. I think is going to become bigger and bigger and more used. It's not super widely used now, but I think it will become more and more well used. and it can be a perfect use case for a backend for your Angular project. So you can go through the course and learn how to use Dino, and then do some side projects where you use Dino to be your backend for an Angular app. So hopefully whoever gets it really likes it. And then in addition, so one person will win free access to it today, and then everyone who attended today, if you reach out to me, you can reach out to me in the chat. Well, I'll put it in the chat in a minute, but if you don't see it, I'll put a code in there for everyone to get a discount on the course. So one person will get it for free. Everybody can get it for a discount. So I'll put that code in the chat in just a minute.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Preston. All right. Thank you to all of our sponsors. And let me get back to the slide presentation. Now is time for our segment that might do the most good for you today. And that's because some of you might be looking for a job right now, or some of you might be looking to hire some Angular developers. So if you're here to get hired or hire someone, I will give each of you 30 seconds to talk about yourself or talk about the company. And I recommend starting with a couple things. First, your name and how to best contact you. And then tell us what kind of work you're looking for. And feel free to say junior, mid, senior, architect, whatever you want. You've got 30 seconds, but this is not just for people looking for work. It's also for people who are looking to hire. And I know that there are a few on the call today. So if you want to do this, all you have to do is put your name in the chat so I know what order to go through people in, okay? So say, I want to do it, and I will call your name and you can present. All right, we're starting with Aaron Frost. Awesome. Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
I need experts. HeroDevs is it's an expert Angular consulting shop. We are supporting AngularJS for enterprise beyond the end of life in December. With that comes a lot of companies that need help upgrading their projects from AngularJS to Angular. So there's a lot of greenfield migration going on. The projects are usually too big for us, so we just need like an Obi-Wan Kenobi to sit with a team of people who want to be Jedis, and then you're there to help them get from point A to point B. So our team is made up of experts. We built Scully, we Angular Universal, Angular CLI. So we've done a lot. We're looking for experts. If you're interested, HeroDevs.com/careers.
Awesome. Thanks, Frosty. Next up is Jeff Babb. Sorry for my kids screaming.
Hello, my name is Jeff Babb. I work for Limble CMS or Limble Solutions. We're looking for Angular developers. We currently use Angular 11 now. And we're looking for mid/upper level developers. But the main thing that we're looking for is people that have a passion and a drive for programming. So if you're a junior and you can show us that you have that passion and drive to learn the craft, then we want you as well. You can apply by emailing me at jeff@limblecmms.com or going to limblecmms.com/careers. I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff. Next up is Daniel O'Toole.
There we go.
Right. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Eric. Sorry, guys. So my name is Daniel O'Toole. I work for a company called KH Distributors. We're a food distributor company located in the western suburbs of Chicago, looking for kind of any Angular developer. I think the open recs we have are senior and kind of mid-level, but we have hired some juniors recently, going through a lot of growth. Food distribution is not the most glamorous industries regarding tech, but we're trying to change that and do a lot of cool digital stuff in this space. Also looking for full stack, but primarily Angular. I'll drop my email in the chat. Looking forward to hearing from some of you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Daniel. Next up is Ankita Sood. please coach me on how to say your name better if you would.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So hi, I'm Ankita. You said it right, Eric. And I work for SecureWorks, which is a cybersecurity company, and we are looking for 6 developers and 1 manager. And we use Angular 11, NX, NGRX, Storybook, Angular Material, and all the fun stuff. And we are working on a SaaS product, like not the CSS SaaS, SaaS, like software as a service. And it's really great. The company is actually owned by Dell, so the benefits are great. And if you are interested, and it's a 100% remote opportunity. So if you're interested, it is just ASOOD, D as in Denver, at octolabs.io. I can drop the email in the chat also. So feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss further. Oh, and the positions are mid-level kind of, but like someone said earlier that if you're a junior and can impress us, we will hire you. That's it.
Very cool. Okay, I've reached the end of the group. Michael Callahan, you can go ahead and have 10 seconds to tell us about one more thing.
Like I say every month here, disneytech.com. Looks like right now we're hiring an Angular associate software engineer with 1 to 3 years of experience for Disney Plus. So if that's interesting to you, I'll go ahead and put a link in the chat.
Thanks so much, Michael. That was fantastic. You did 10 seconds. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the next part. Thank you so much. I only ask that if you do get a job through the meetup, please just let me know. That's it. I don't ask for anything much. Just want to know that we helped you. All right. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone, but it doesn't seem like it. Now I'd like to introduce my good friend, Chris Snow. Chris, take it away.
Okay, great. So I've titled my talk RxJS Flattening Operators, Pulling Back the Curtain. My goal is to hopefully make it a little bit easier to see what's going on with some of these operators. And I want to make this applicable to people with a wide range of experience. So this is somewhat of an advanced topic, but my hope is that even if you have never worked with RxJS or are still a little fuzzy on some of these things, that that you'll be able to follow through and give you something to work off of for learning these operators in greater depth later. So before we get into that, though, a little bit about me. This will make sense in just a second. My name is Chris Snow, not Leia Snow as it shows on Zoom. That's my daughter. I am the father of 2 daughters, 8 and 1 years old. I am a francophone. I got my degrees in French, and I mostly bring that up because I am a self-taught software engineer, and I want to encourage anybody who may be looking at doing a career switch or who doesn't have a formal CS degree, just to encourage you to say, hey, it is possible to get a job in this industry, and it is totally worth doing it. There are lots of great resources out there. That's not to say I'm self-taught, that I haven't had help. I've had tons of help. Seek out people like in this meetup, and you can make it. I'm also a video game enthusiast and a prolific purveyor of memes and GIFs, as you might see a little bit later. All right, so to start things off, before we jump into the flattening operators, I want to lay a foundation for some key concepts that'll help us grasp these. So RxJS observables, what are they? They are streams of values over time, and that over time aspect is very important. They can emit anywhere from 0 to an unlimited number of values, and that can be done either synchronously or asynchronously. Now, it's important to know that you have to subscribe to an observable in order for it to do anything. And also, you should unsubscribe from them. And these flattening operators are going to help us with that aspect of that. So just a little example here. We've got this numbers observable that we've created. This of operator will create an observable of whatever you put in here. So in this case, an array of numbers. If we were to try to access the value of that or assign it, it wouldn't really do anything because we don't have a subscription to it. But if we subscribe to it, within that subscription, we can access the values, and we can also assign it to a variable so that we can unsubscribe to it later. Now, where the real magic in RxJS comes in is with the operators, because what that allows us to do is manipulate and transform the values that are being emitted by observables. So we can use operators such as map and take. And I'm sorry, I've got my video panel over here. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing that. Let me move that off the screen.
I don't see a video panel. I just see operators.
Perfect. Okay. So the operators allow us to take one of the values that's being emitted by an observable, and then we can shape it however we want. And we can chain these operators so that we can keep passing those values down the pipe to get whatever shape and form of those values we need at the end. So what does that look like? If we take that same numbers observable that we were looking at earlier, we can call the pipe method on it and then use this map operator. Now this is an RxJS map operator that will pass in the numbers array. And then within here, we can do whatever we want. And this map is the array method map. And so in this case, we can just multiply everything by 2, for instance. And then it will take whatever value we get from there. And we can use this take operator, for instance, and that would make it so that we are only getting 3 of the values out of this array. It'll stop after that. And so the result here would look like this: 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so those are operators. We're here to learn about flattening operators. So what is flattening? Well, if you're working with observables, you'll likely run into instances where you have an observable which is going to emit other observables. And so that can lead us into a situation where we might need to access the value of that second observable, the inner observable. You might be tempted to do something that looks a little bit like this. Don't worry too much about what's going on in here. Basically, we have we're using this map operator to do an HTTP request, which is returning an observable, which is represented by this inner observable that we're passing in. So if we wanted to access the value of this, one way to do it would be to subscribe to this first observable, and then subscribe again in there. But that is not recommended for a few reasons. It's harder to read, it's harder to reason about, and it can get messy, especially if that inner observable is in turn returning an observable, or if you wanted to pipe off of that, the nesting can continue on. So flattening operators will help us to get everything back in line and make it easier to reason about and in a sequential order. So for instance, if we were to apply the MergeMap operator here, it takes care of both the mapping as well as it will handle the subscription, subscribing and unsubscribing to this inner observable so that it's nice and clean. All right, so raise your hand in the chat if you, like me, have ever attempted to go on to the official documentation for RxJS and have run into some marble diagrams and have had this reaction, huh? That has happened to me, and not to say that these are poorly written, they're just very technical. And I know that even looking at these now, it's not 100% clear to me, what's going on with all of these. And so because of that, I have created a little app to help visualize what's actually going on with some of these operators. And so I want to show that to you now. Let me get out of here. All right, so if we look at SwitchMap, in fact, let me get rid of the marble diagram and the definition here, and let's take a look at what some of this code might look like. So we've got a result observable that we're working with. It's kind of the final product. We've got the source observable, or the outer observable, that is going to be emitting values. And then we're using the SwitchMap operator. And inside of that, that is going to return an inner observable, which also has some mapping going on here, similar to what we saw before, where we're just multiplying the values that are emitted by both the outer observable and the inner observable. That part's not as important here. What I want you to focus on is what happens when I call next on the outer. So that this is simulating when the outer observable emits a value, what happens? So if I do that, I'm using an interval here. So every second it will emit a value. And we can see that the outer value is 1, and then it's multiplying that by whatever the inner observable amount is. It's incrementing 1 each second. So here's where the time aspect comes in. If I were to call this several times, look what happens. With SwitchMap, it's handling those inner subscriptions, and every time we call next on one of these outer observables, it's canceling the current active subscription and starting the new one. Okay. So let me clear that, and let's zoom out a little bit, and I'll show you all 4 of these real briefly. If we were to call next now on all 4 of them together, if we just have one value, they all look pretty much the same. And this is why it can be a little bit confusing for people who are trying to learn the difference of these, because sometimes they seem to do the same thing. But if I were to call this several times now, you can already see, without even knowing what's going on, that they're all acting quite differently. All right, so let me turn some of these off here, and let's focus on MergeMap now compared to SwitchMap. So MergeMap works a little bit differently in the fact that whereas SwitchMap can only have one active subscription at a time, MergeMap, you can have multiple subscriptions happening all the time. And if you look at the result that's going, it's kind of going crazy. It's firing off every time one of these inner observables emits a value. The result observable is also emitting that value. So it can have multiple ones going on at the same time. Now, if we add ConcatMap into the mix, it works a little bit differently. So ConcatMap's right here. We'll wait for this first one to finish and then see what happens. Okay, so ConcatMap is similar to SwitchMap in that it only has one active subscription going on, but it's different in the fact that it's not canceling anyone when the next one is emitted. Instead, it is queuing them up. It is creating a reserve of inner observables, and they are going to continue to go, and they're all grouped up here in this most recent one, or in the latest one rather. And then finally, if we look at ExhaustMap, it is also similar to SwitchMap in the fact that there can only be one active inner observable. However, it is somewhat the opposite in the fact that any inners that that get created during this time aren't going to get subscribed to until this last, or until the current active subscription is completed. So now that this one's complete, if I were to call next again, it will start up a new one. But while that one's active, if I call it, it's not going to subscribe to any. So that's a real quick, real brief overview of these 4 operators. Before I end, I just want to show you that if we switch over from using intervals to a subject, which is kind of like a supercharged observable that we have more control over, we can have a little more fine-grained control over here. And just to show you, because these intervals were all working sequentially, if we look at MergeMap here, we can call next on these out of order. And so again, that time aspect comes into play. It's asynchronous here, where it doesn't matter which order that they were initially called in. They're going to fire off in whichever order they are emitted here, and I can complete them out of order. So I'll put a link to this in the chat if anybody wants to take a look at it and play around with it. Yeah, that's the RxJS flattening operators in a nutshell.
Thanks a ton, Chris. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. Actually, Frosty actually hand-coded or hand-wrote the URL for you, so you don't even have to.
Oh, nice.
But there was a question, it was a very good question, by Ryan Hutchinson. Is this app open source? This is like marbles on steroids. I think they're wondering if they can access this on GitHub and use it themselves.
It is on GitHub, and I can provide a link to that.
Cool, man. Thank you so much, Chris. Give it up for Chris, and go ahead and stop sharing your screen, and we'll move on.
All right.
Well done. That is a really useful tool. The amazing Yvonne Allen. I get the pleasure of introducing her today. Yvonne Allen is a brand new Angular GDE and a newcomer to speaking at conferences and meetups, with the most recent being ng-conf Enterprise, or Enterprise NG. Yvonne is a co-organizer for GDG Atlanta, a member of Women Who Code, and most recently, Technologist of Color. She has a passion for advising and mentoring new developers, and is an open source contributor. Thank you so much for speaking at our meetup today, Yvonne. And without further ado, go ahead and present.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So please excuse my voice. I am slightly nervous because, why not? Okay. So as was previously stated, I am Yvonne Allen. I am a full stack developer. Depending on which day you catch me. And you can find me on Twitter at yallen011, or you can find me on LinkedIn as Yvonne Allen. So today we're going to be talking about, deep diving into the Angular workspace file, also known as the angular.json file, which is what I knew it was until I started doing more research, and I was like, oh, there's a name for that. Okay, cool. So it's called the Angular workspace file. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular talk is because for so long, especially as a newbie, you kind of, in your tutorials, you're like, oh yeah, there's an Angular workspace file that get created when I do an ng-new command. But you look in there and there's a lot of properties and you kind of just like, all right, let's move on. That's a scary file. It's full of a lot of properties and a lot of stuff you have no idea what it does. And in most of your tutorials, you don't really get a really good or deep overview or understanding of what that file does and how important that file plays to your environment. So what I aim to do today is to give you a deeper dive into that workspace file to make it not so scary anymore and not so much of a Pandora's box that you kind of put on your shelf and don't pay attention to until you're like, oh, I really need to know what's in this file. Let me figure out what's going on. So join me today as I become your deep diving Angular workspace scuba instructor. And it's very important that you pay attention and do not get lost, because I do not want you to get lost out in the sea of the Angular workspace file. So stay with your Angular buddy. And if you get lost, please stay right where you are and someone will come and rescue you. And at least I think they will, but let's get geared up. So previously, prior to Angular 6, the Angular used the angular-ul.json file, and by default, when you use the ng-new, you created an Angular project. But that changed in the Angular 6+. So now when you use the ng-new project command, you're creating a workspace. So the thing was, there was no breaking change with that. So no one, if you were like me, you didn't understand or know that it went from creating a single project to a workspace that it contains an initial project, because it looked the same to me. So if you were the same person, just kind of like me, that was like, yeah, I didn't realize that that was a big change that happened, put it here in the chat if you can feel my pain. So about this Angular workspace file, what does it do? And what benefits did that switch from what happened in Angular 6 to Angular 7 provide? Angular 6 to Angular pre-6 to 6+ provide. Are you guys seeing are you seeing the you are sharing screen on your pages as well? Is that
the
there?
Slides, and that's it.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure you wasn't seeing that you are sharing Zoom bar there. So some of the things that it provides is, excuse me, it provides better code reuse now. It allows you to manage your Angular applications in a single environment by utilizing the mono repo architecture, and it makes your workflow way more efficient. So what do you get and what do you see in your angular.json file when you do the ng-new, whatever you want to name your workspace command? As you can see, let's say you want to create a new project or a new workspace called workspace, and you did it with the ng-new workspace name command. By default, you will see that you get initial project, and that project, as you can see there in the default application, the default project is the same name as the workspace file. So that's what happened there. What happened was you're now getting a workspace, an initial project that has the exact same name, which you can see here under where it says projects. In the projects property, the first sub property there is the name of the initial initial application that it created when you created generated your new workspace. Now, let's say that you didn't want to, let me go back for a second. The reason why this option is good is definitely for people who are just now starting out, want to get up and running really quickly, don't need to create like a huge application infrastructure or monorepo infrastructure. You're just doing it for a tutorial, or you're learning how to use Angular. this particular way of doing it is perfect for you. But if you are going to be using the monorepo architecture, architecture, or you need to do something more vast and on an enterprise level, you may opt in for the second option here, which is creating a workspace with the empty application to start off with. And as you can see here, the options drastically decrease when you do the when you create a new workspace without any initial application. So as you can see here, you do get the same, first few properties, but in your projects property, you will see no projects because you didn't create any when you did your initial command. So that was a big thing for me. I had no idea what the difference was, or even that you can do it differently. So I hope, like, if you didn't know, now you know. So we did surface level. Let's get into a little bit of what that looks like in an actual project. Like, let's just run some commands and see how this looks. So let's just kind of see what that command does. So let's do a new project. So you're just going to say yes here. How that do that? All right, so let's kind of open that folder up here. Let's go to the Angular.json file. So as you can see, that's pretty much just going to be what it looks like. And as you can see here, unlike how if we create an initial project, we don't have any file structure in here besides our initial files. Okay, so let's move on a little bit more here, and let's discuss another thing that you will definitely see. Well, before we do that, let's go ahead and create an initial application, just to kind of show you what that structure would look like now that you created a workspace without an application. So let's just generate an application. So we use the ng-generate application to generate a new application. Let's say first app. And let's see how your project, your angular.json structure changes once that's created. Okay. So here. Routing for this. Okay, so now you see that really long, all these properties that you would generally see when you first use like an initial application, you use an ng-new. But as you can see here, unlike before, now you will see first app, which is now the name of your first application that you created. And then now you will see all the way here at the bottom that your first application will be your default project. So it automatically does that for you. Angular will create all these defaults for you so that you don't have to do them out the gate when you create your first application. So there's another thing you can do. Let's say, going along with the monorepo architecture, that you want to add a library to your Angular application, to your Angular workspace file. So let's go over what that would look like. So libraries. Libraries are good for code reuse across Angular projects or across other Angular libraries. It can also be used and will be published to NPM as an NPM package to use to extend your Angular functionality or use in other workspaces and by other developers entirely. You can also use and consume libraries themselves, but they must be built before they're used. So in order to use your Angular library, you need to generate it, generate a new library using the ng generate library with the library name. And then you build your library. And then in order to use it, you just simply add the name of that library's module to whatever application you want to use or library you want to use. So let's try that out now. Let's go back to our project that we were initially created, and let's create a new library, and we're going to give it just call it kind of like how we did the ng generate library, and let's say first lib. Okay, so as you can see here, as opposed to when we created our first application, it said the project type was application. But if you go down, let's minimize this. Oops. Okay, so now you see our first lib and the project type is a library. So now you can denote, okay, this is a library, not in application like our first app. And there's only two types, which is project type or the application. I'm saying application type or the library type. As you see here, we also get our most of the same properties that we did within the application. And another thing to note is after you build your application, you also will receive the mappings in the tsconfig.json file. And you will see these and so these are your mappings as well. So this is kind of how TypeScript knows how to find your library. Okay, so we've been to the surface level of everything, at the top, on the beach, just kind of hanging out, getting our gear on. Now let's go deeper. Let's scuba dive into this thing. Let's see more about what's in this Angular workspace file that may have intimidated you before, but I'm going to help you not be intimidated. So the first thing that we kind of already touched on were projects. So the projects, as you can see, as I mentioned earlier, will all, like, libraries contains objects for applications in libraries are all contained in the projects object. And what you see here is, again, the name of the project, the application or library. Then you will see its type. Then you will see schematics, which are used to customize the ng generate subcommand options in their defaults. So for instance, here we're telling the components schematic that we're going to be using SESS like file extensions for all of our styling files. So that's where that comes in. So every time you create a new component, each component will have that extension for your styling files, because that's what you told it when you did your config file, when you did your, ng-new command and said, hey, I wanted to create all of my styling files as SESS files, so SAS files like that. So that's where that comes in at. And then you have your location of where the root project is. And in this case, it is first app because it's the one you created first. And then you have the source of where that is. And if you did the ng-new, it will be blank by default because it is set to the initial application. And then you have the prefix, which will, sorry, I am forgetting to do this part. So I've done schematics, okay, application root, source files, and then your selector prefix. So every time you create a new component and it has the app dash, whatever you named the component, that's where that prefix is set. And then you have your architect build targets, and we'll get more into that just in a second. So that second is now. So architect, let's talk about that. So architect, still to this day, I have to basically use an analogy for this because it's still very confusing to just kind of say out loud, just based on the definitions of what the relation between the architect, a target, and the builder is. But let's give you the definition of it for right now already. So architect is a tool that the CLI uses to perform a task, such as when you compile your code or when you run your test, is using the architect shell to do so. And the architect itself is just kind of a shell that executes the builders that is assigned to a target. So let me give you the analogy that I like to use. So architect is like Santa, okay? And then you have the elves are the targets. And then the elves tools are the builders, and the project itself is like, let's say the elves are assigned to build a bike. So the elves would use their build tools to build a bike. So that's a good way to think about the architect builder to target analogy in a way that it kind of makes more sense. Because other than that, I don't know how to like wrap my own head around like, what does the architect do and why is it called target and build target and a builder? Like, I don't understand, but that explaining it in that way to me kind of wraps my head around. So hopefully that analogy helps you. So in the Angular workspace file itself, the architect section provides configuration option for the architect builders. And here we're going to go, I'm going to just briefly overview that each one of these, the build, the serve, extract, I18, and all these are the particular targets. And they may look familiar, and I'll tell you why in a second when you condense it down like this. Okay, so let's get into targets. So targets, as we said earlier, are the elves, okay? And targets are defined in the Angular, are defined in the Angular.json file. And the target specifies which builders to use and its default configuration options that will be used if no other alternatives are supplied during the execution. So like, let's just say, let's give an example, the build command. So let's say we used ng-build, and I'm giving some of it away, but let's say we use ng-build and we didn't use the -- prod command, there are already defaults for using ng-build with, and these are the actual options that it provides. So like whatever the list of options you see, like the output path, the index, location of the index file, these are all the defaults that are already set and come when you build a new Angular workspace, come for you, so you don't have to build these out yourself. But these are the options that the target use in the configurations. Now, remember when I said those look familiar, correct? Those targets look familiar because those default targets already correspond to some Angular CLI commands. You can also do your own, have your own targets. You can create custom targets and builders, and then you would use the ng-run command, but these default targets are correlate to the Angular CLI commands. So as you can see here, you have the build target corresponds with the ng-build CLI command in this default configuration environment, and configure in options, configurations and options. So that's why it looks familiar. So if you expand out into, let's go back to our application here. Let's go to, so now you can see here the options that the build target comes with. And this is the builder. So now you see the builder here, and then these are the default build options that you can override on the command line if you need to, but most of the time, especially when you're a beginner and are doing tutorials, you don't need to override those. So usually you don't even understand or know anything about this file because you're like, yeah, I don't know what it does. I don't need it. So you usually just kind of skip over it. But as you be more mid-level or more advanced, you start to need to understand what these configuration options and what that builder does. Now let's move on to builders. Oh, sorry, forgot to go back. Let's move on to builders. So as we mentioned earlier, builders do the actual work, and they are functions that are used by the architect API, and the code is usually defined is defined in an NPM package. But inside of the Angular workspace file, it contains the default configurations for built-in builders as well as your custom builders that you can create. So an example would be the browser builder, which you would commonly see. Well, sorry. So in this case, because so outdated that one, you see like ng package manager. So it will look, well, this is for a library. Yep, there it is. You will see the browser builder for when it runs Webpacks. Well, when you use Webpack to build the browser targets, that's what you'll see there. And that's kind of what I'm not going to go deeply into what, like how extravagant, you can go with builders, but, a person like Mike Horton, he also deals with builders and he's way better at it than me. So this is more surface level. And if you want to go deeper into like builders and architects, you can definitely follow, look at some of his blogs and talks because he dives deeper in that. So shout out to Mike. And that was the end of it. And so I kind of hope you got a general or better understanding of how the properties work in the Angular workspace file. And if you would like, there are more resources here from where I got more of my information from. And I hope this helped.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. That was fantastic. A lot of people are saying how awesome that was and how they want to submit a PR to change Angular to support more interesting names. So thank you all for participating. That was wonderful. Now I get to introduce another one of my friends, Aaron Frost. And I think we all know who Aaron Frost is, but in case you don't, well, let me just have Aaron tell us who Aaron is. Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm just a guy. That's who I am. Let me share my screen. I talk about it in my slides. Give me a second. Let me present this. Yvonne, great talk, by the way. Lots of details on those APIs that we don't always use. So that was great.
Thank you.
My computer's freezing. So I'm going to need a second. I'm going to refresh this. There we are. Happening. Okay, we're happening.
It's all good. Actually, can I take a second to say something? There was since Frosty's wrangling his computer right now, I wanted to say that the Angular Community Meetup is going to be starting another event series soon, and it will be targeting the time zones of Europe and Africa. So we're going to be launching that probably next month with our first event. So we'll have more than one event per month. We'll start having 2, and eventually we'll have more than that. So if you are interested in attending, or somebody who's interested in attending this meetup event, but it's in the middle of the night for them because of the place they live in the world, or it's just unavailable to them, then it would be really cool to invite them to this Europe-Africa one. And it's not just for Europe and Africa. It's ideal for those time zones, but it's also really great because it might be during your lunch hour if you live in the United States. So keep that in mind. If you want twice as much awesome content and learning, then stay tuned. You can follow me on Twitter, Erik_Slack, and I will give you guys announcements on that. Thank you.
All right. So Eric reached out and said, hey, we had a cancellation. And, it's better to get a talk as a backup speaker than no talk. Can we agree? So I'd rather be a cancellation speaker than no speaker. Eric said, hey, we want you to talk about benefits of working in the Angular community. And I think I know why he picked me. I've been I've probably been luckier than most. It's been a lot of hard work, but I do want to share some of the benefits. Over the years, we've watched a lot of cool stuff happen as we've interacted with the community, and I've been lucky enough to have a front row seat for a lot of it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share some of that on the invite of Erik tonight. So let me start by introducing myself. A lot of people just call me Frosty. You call me Aaron, you call me Frosty, you call me Aaron Frost. I'm a twin, so you call me Joel. I'll probably respond. I have 5 kids, so if you call me Dad, I'll probably respond to Dad too. It's probably enough kids for most people on this phone call, to be honest. It's a lot. Did you see, Erik, that Utah is growing over the last decade faster than any other state of all 50?
I had no idea.
Yeah, number one. They just kind of talked about it. Yeah. We're growing too fast, everyone. If you've ever seen the movie Idiocracy, smart people, you need to start having kids too. Otherwise, we're gonna be in trouble as a race, as a species. Okay. Okay, so I'm also a GDE. I started ng-conf. I run HeroDevs. I'm on a podcast called Angular Show. If you want to check it out, go to ng.show. You should check it out and subscribe. But yeah, and I gave away my mystery. Dang it. I'm a twin. Anything else I haven't said? Any other mysteries? Erik, you want to volunteer any?
Yeah. There's a couple companies that you run that aren't on this list.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody in the crowd might know one of them.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll give you a hint. Actually, I won't give you any hint because I bet somebody will know.
No hints.
Oh, somebody's asking what your Twitter handle is. It's Michaela?
Yeah, it's coming here. Next slide. I think it's on the bottom of the slides. No, it's Aaron Frost is the Twitter handle. It's supposed to be on the bottom of the slides. I swear I put it on there. Anyway, it's Aaron Frost, just my name. So yeah, it'll be on the last slide, I promise. So don't worry about checking out now. Yeah. We run XLTS. We do Scully. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk today about the value of community involvement, and I'm going to share just some of the accidental luck I've had. I say accidental because just because you work hard doesn't mean you're always successful. Doesn't mean you always get something. There's a lot of privilege afforded me that doesn't get to be afforded to a lot of people, unfortunately. And so a lot of what I'm about to share, it's not based on merit. It's based on sometimes I was just the first person who tried it, or I just got lucky. I'm not claiming any sort of community superiority. I know that a lot of this was entirely out of my hands. But my wife and I, we worked hard to put myself in some really cool scenarios, and it worked out. So that's all I'm trying to say, though. I'm not trying to say you couldn't do it. I'm not trying to say it's easy, but I'm just trying to share there's been a lot of benefit of being involved in the community for me, and some of it we don't always get to talk about. So I'll try and shed the light on some of it, and there's been too much to fit into a talk, so I'm going to just try and highlight some topics, talk about some of my favorite parts of them, and then if there's questions, feel free to chat them up live, and I'll try and go over them, or we can do some Q&A at the end. But anyway, so first I'm going to start by talking about ng-conf. I was at work 2013, month of April. So what is that? It was really close to about now 8 years ago. And my friends were like, yo, dude, let's go to an Angular conference. Angular.js 1.0 had just hit. We were using it. We were evangelizing it inside the organization. And we Googled, there wasn't any. So for me, I was like, all right, let's just go back to work. There's nothing else to see here. And one of the guys said something crazy. He said, we should make a conference. And I went, nah. And I literally turned around in my chair and just started working again. And he was like, no, I'm serious. And he was the only one of us that had done a conference. And so we're like, all right, I'm going to Google next month, and there's an open house with Angular team. I'll ask them if they'll come. If they'll come, if we can get one of them, we could probably have a successful conference. So I'll go ask. So I asked, and I was super nervous. Eric, you know how you get when you're nervous, bro? Your voice is shaky and like, you're probably swinging back and forth, or I don't know. You're not acting like you would normally. Yeah. Anyway, that's probably what I'm doing. And Brad Green, who's the manager of the team, he's like, yeah, well, I'll send my whole team to your conference. And as at that moment, I was like, okay, this is gonna be different. Anyway, so we just got lucky that we thought of doing an Angular conference first, and the Angular team was so willing to lean in on our event and be a part of it. So ng-conf's been a lot of fun. I've also done ng Vegas, which was another go at a conference. We did loopconf, where we tried to do what we had done for ng-conf. We wanted to do that for WordPress. Didn't pan out. WordPress communities seriously not as fun as the Angular community, and that's just a fact. And we also did Enterprise NG last fall, so we've done lots of conferences. They take so much work. There's so much to learn. One of the coolest things, though, and I may ask if anyone here has done this. I'm going to ask you to maybe comment in the chat or raise your own hand. If you started your own meetup because of your attendance at ng-conf, could you raise your hand or just say something? Over the years, it's been shocking the number of people who are like, I was at ng-conf and we decided, I met some other people from my hometown and we decided, let's do a new meetup. They were in an area that didn't have one. I'm like, I'm going to go start one. Chow, you got I think that's a hand raise going on there. Vietnam. There you go. Do it. Make the first Angular Vietnam, NG Vietnam. So yeah, NG Saigon, that'd be rad. But lots of that happened, and that's been like really, really humbling to see how many communities started at our event. It's been a lot. That we met the whole Angular team. It's hard to say how much that's been a benefit for me. I have friends because they all move on. They go to Apple, they go to Waymo, they go to different organizations, and you have friends everywhere. I have friends at Slack, not because I know anyone at Slack, just because some of my friends from Google went to Slack. And so like, it's really, really fun. The number of people I've gotten to meet. This one's nerdy, but my kids think it's rad. To my kids, this is the biggest accomplishment of ng-conf. There's this kid on YouTube who's super annoying. His name's Collins Key. He used to be like a magician on Americans Got Talent. It was actually pretty legit, and we hired him to come to one of our after parties. Now he's just on YouTube, and it's super annoying. He does like eat smelly food and stuff. That's the coolest thing for my kids. So I met Collins Key. Something else that we did though was I learned about code of conducts, and I've tried to teach you about code of conducts because of my involvement with ng-conf. I've met a lot of really fun people like Yvonne, like Eric, so many other fantastic community members I've met because of ng-conf. And a couple of times, some of the people that I meet and love get hurt, or they're not safe at my conference. And that the first few years, I didn't understand that could happen. And the first few years, people weren't talking about, like, it would happen and they wouldn't tell us. So we weren't doing a good enough job at saying, hey, if something happens, tell us. Now the code of conduct is like the number one thing I focus on at the event. And I really want to encourage everyone, if you have a company, if you have a meetup, if you have an open source project, add a code of conduct to make people safe. It's mind-boggling the number of ways that bad actors in our communities will find a way to exploit the trust that we implicitly extend to one another, right? Like day one, it's just really sad, is all I'm going to say. So try to always adopt code of conducts. But yeah, I've met so many experts. I really feel lucky. And like, honestly, the benefit of doing ng-conf. Before ng-conf, I'm a programmer. Now I know how to get sponsors. I know how to sell sponsors, and I know why to sell sponsors. I know how to set up a sponsor booth area. I know why they want to do it. I know what makes them come back every year. So sponsors, I can do swag. I can do menu planning. I know how to plan a menu for 1,500 people for 4 days. Like, it's insane. what I've learned. You also learn how to do safety measures for everybody, how to get plane tickets for all the speakers, how to do a party with like Desmouse impersonators and other, like a casino night. And like we've done a lot of rad stuff. You also learn how to take every speaker and coach them and hire a professional speaker coach to say, hey, if this is your first time, still we want you to feel awesome. Work with this speaker coach so you give your best version of your talk. And there's so much more that we've learned, just all because we said, hey man, we should do an Angular event, right? And we just put ourselves in the room where it was happening, and you end up learning so much. And I can't really speak to it. It's not quantifiable, the amount of benefit I've gotten off of just being part of ng-conf. The next one is the GDE program. I was giving talks, doing blogs, helping out in other ways in the community. I organized the Google developer group, and I got nominated to the GDE program. And I want to talk about that real quick. The GDE program, this is for people who are acting like experts, and they're acting like experts in the community. And then you get nominated as a GDE. It's not the other way around. Preston and Yvonne can attest. They're both GDEs. You act like a GDE, and then you get nominated. It's like a recognition for the hard work and effort you've put into the community. It's only after a lot of talks, workshops, books, traveling, like endless nights that you've dedicated, then they're like, Google's like, hello, that's a GDE right there. You go through some interviews and it's done. But it opens so many new doors. Like, it lets you do what you're already doing, but lets you kick it up. Preston, you're like 1 month in, right? 2 months in?
Yeah, about 2 months now.
Yeah. This pandemic's about to lift, and Preston's about to travel the world. It's going to be exciting. So, anyway, it's been super nice. In 1 week, Chow, you're a GDE. Wow, for your interview. That's pretty cool. We got potential GDEs up in here. When I was working as a W-2 employee, I'd walk into my boss's office and be like, yo, dude, I'm a GDE. So that I need you to consider that. I'm still the same guy I was before I was a GDE, but in that review meeting, you're trying to flex. So I used it to flex, and it's a serious flex, whether it's, you're trying to present at a meetup, you're trying to get people to read your blog or get an annual raise from your boss. There's a lot of that going on. It's just an accolade that you get to throw out. A lot. Anyone who knows me knows I haven't changed because I was nominated as a GDE, but some people think that you're special. I hate to let people, see behind the curtain, but you're really not special. You're just the same person you were before you were the GDE. But you get tons of invites to participate in the community that you wouldn't have gotten without the accolades. So it makes influencing a lot easier. One of the really many things that was awesome. I remember I used to worship the Google Chrome team, and they invited us to Google to talk to the Chrome team. And I was there, and I was like, oh my gosh, if any of you know what I'm talking about, like whether it's fanboy syndrome or pretty girl in the room syndrome, like whatever it is, it's just, oh my gosh, that is one of my heroes right there. And I was experiencing that. I couldn't even really, like, as gregarious as I can be, I was totally shut down because I was like starstruck. Anyway, and I remember being in the room, and they started saying things that were wrong. And Ward Bell was there. And if anyone knows Ward sometimes says some things over the top, but he called them out on their stuff. And I was like, wow, I feel so lucky to have watched like this battle of titans between Ward and the Google Chrome team. And it was just rad. And being part of those events are things that I really feel lucky. I remember one time I was at Google I/O. I was walking down the hall, and does anyone here know Paul Irish? Like he used to be pretty rad. Like he used to be the guy. If you know any of the Chrome DevRels, Paul Irish used to be the one. Anyway, we're at Google I/O, and it's just like 6,000 people, and Paul Irish is trying to make his way through the crowd, and he stopped, fist bumps me, says, "Hey, Frost, None of my friends were there, so I couldn't tell anyone about it, but it was like the coolest flex. I was so excited to be like, dude, Paul Irish knows my name, yo. Anyway, so yeah, and that was all because of the GD program, getting in the rooms with those people. All right, next one. Speaker. Speaking has been so much fun, and I've learned a lot about development as a speaker. Just earlier today, I was talking to someone who said, I learn more when I write blogs. And that's true. If anyone here has written a blog, you learn more writing the blog than the person reading the blog is going to learn. And that's just how blogs work. Same for teaching classes and giving talks. I had really, really severe imposter syndrome when I first started as a programmer. So I would submit my talks to everything. I just wanted to not be the idiot in the room. I wanted to prove I was good enough. And that comes from like weird childhood trauma. I didn't need to do all that, but for some reason I was. And I would submit a talk to everything. And I pretty quickly learned, and this is a tip for everyone, if you prepare one good talk, like you guys all saw Snow's talk he did today, where he had like this rad Netlify app going, where he showed off the flattening operators. You do, like he put a lot of time into that. I could tell. As a person who's giving talks, I'm like, that's effort. That's what effort looks like. You do one good talk like that, that should last you for 8 or 9 months. You should submit that to the handful of conferences. Like, it sucks that he wrote that during the pandemic, because that right there, that's a trip to Europe or somewhere. That's a solid conference ticket right there. But yeah, and I learned that. I was like, if I put in a lot of effort for these talks, I can give them 6 or 7 times to a bunch of, whether it's meetups, online events, or in-person conferences. So I would invest, kind of like Ryan, I would invest a lot of time in these talks to make sure that they were good. And it got to be too many. I was like, dude, I can't do these talks anymore. My wife's literally going to divorce me. It's too much. I'm gone too much. So I stopped submitting. But what I wasn't prepared for was, combined with how many talks I'd given, the quality I was preparing, plus the GD program, I wasn't prepared to not accept invites. And I'd never been invited before, but all of a sudden the invites started coming. And that was so much fun. I got to speak internationally. I got to speak bilingually. I got to speak in English and Spanish. And if any of you know me, I'm Irish on the outside, but on the inside, I feel like I'm Mexican. I love Mexican culture. I lived there when I was a teenager. My wife's from Mexico. Like, my kids are half Mexican. I really, really identify with Mexico and all of Latin American culture. So speaking in Spanish was like a dream that I got to do. And everyone was super forgiving. They let me use my Spanglish. But so some of the conferences I wanted to call out that were fun. Poland, NG Poland was a lot of fun. If you've never had a pierogi, you should go to Poland and have some pierogies as you speak at a conference. That was a lot of fun. London was fun. I took my daughters with me. This is a picture of me outside of Buckingham Palace with my daughters. I took them to one of the conferences. I go over there. We spent a week together. That was so much fun. Israel, went to the Dead Sea, and that was so fun to like just and here's the crazy thing. When you go around, you travel, and you're doing these speaking events, anyone who can attest to this, just raise your hand. You show up and you have like this built-in travel set of friends. Like, I don't know the other speakers, but we're friends for the week. So as you travel around Israel or around London, you've got all these friends they're now your friends, and you're now traveling together, and you've got travel buddies, and you have these really meaningful conversations with people you never met. So speaking has been huge for me. I would recommend, I can't recommend it more to anybody. So Canelo, bro, you can call me Canelo. That would be fun. So yeah, that is, anyone who hasn't spoken, I would recommend submitting. I started at all the local events because I didn't believe in myself enough to submit at larger events. Then I started submitting at larger events. And now I don't really submit because life's too busy. But if people invite me, I like tonight, I'm there like almost every single time. So yeah, I definitely would recommend speaking as much as you can. Like the person earlier today who I was on a phone call with, you learn way more as a speaker than you do as an audience member. Podcasts. Someone was like, yo, dude, do you want to do a podcast? I was like, I've never done one. I don't know if I'd be any good. And they're like, just try it. If you're not good, we won't invite you again. I was like, okay, I can do that. If I can disappoint with no penalties, that's rad. I'll do it. So I started doing a podcast called JS Jabber. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It used to be pretty important. And I think the pinnacle of that, we started getting more and more downloads. And I think it maxed out with Brendan Eich, the inventor of JavaScript. And I know not everyone's a fan of Brendan Eich, and I understand it, but as a young developer, to do a 2-hour-long interview with Brendan Eich was outrageous. And he took us through the ins and the outs of the podcast, or of the creation of JavaScript, where it got its name, what was it called before it was called JavaScript, how long it took him to invent it in reality. And then we did another podcast called Adventures in Angular. And I got to meet Misko, the person who made Angular. And like, I got to learn what the code name for AngularJS was before they called it AngularJS. Like, what was the name of the project before they called it Angular? I got to learn that. Just a lot of those really cool, nuanced, behind the scene definitions that most of us in the community don't get to hear. And just putting yourself available as, I'll do a podcast, made that possible. And then now we do the Angular show, and we do all the experts. If you've never been on, if you never watched it or listened to it, it's pretty rad. Brooke and I were talking today. Brooke thinks that I shoot the wind too much, and she wants me to focus more on content. I'm just like, whatever, Brooke. I got a gift of gab, and I'm going to run that moneymaker. So we try and have fun, but we also show social messages at the end. So podcasting has been huge. If you don't listen to a podcast, listen to one, make one. They're really not that hard. If you have Zoom, or if you have a way of recording and you have a topic and you can make a recurring calendar invite, you should do one. It's super, super cool. So yeah, we got a fan. We got Chow. It's the go-to lawn mowing content is the Angular show. So that's rad. Okay. The last one is pseudo author. I tried to write a book before I got on Twitter, and I wrote I was writing ES6. It was before ES6 was like a thing. This was back in 2013. I was writing this book, and I was talking to the TC39, and I was working with like Axel Rauschmeier and David Herman and Brendan Eich and all the guys from the TC39, and they were giving me information. They were saying, "Hey, you're kind of crazy for writing this. It's really early." And I was like, "Whatever, man." I started writing it. I wrote an abridged version for managers, and then I got on Twitter. And I saw how hateful the internet can be when you suck at something or if people disagree with you. Dude, writer's block. I couldn't finish the book. Every time I sat down to write, I froze. I say I'm a pseudo author. I got kind of involved, and I met a lot of really cool people, but I never shipped the actual book. But as I was doing that, I did do a lot of blogs about it. I did do a lot of podcasts about it with the people who are authoring ES6 or authoring the specs, at least. And one time, I remember being at O'Reilly's Fluent Conf, and I gave a half-a-day workshop on ES6 with Axel Rauschmeier, who has his doctorate degree in computer science. Everything JavaScript is this guy. And I was on stage co-presenting with this fella. I felt beyond lucky to be co-presenting with. I had no business being on that stage, to be honest. But I co-presented with him, and it was a really, really cool experience. Anyway, all of that is to say, I just put my neck out there. I tried to make things happen. I did a couple meetups as well. The GDG Utah, Angular Utah. I used to organize this meetup, and podcast GDE. There's so many things out there to do. There's so many ways that being in the community has benefited me. Like at the bottom here on the bottom right, it says lots more. I have a consulting company because I met so many people who are experts. I was like, "Hey, you want to build a company?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Hey, let's support AngularJS beyond end of life. Let me call the Angular team. They're my friends." Like, to be able to say that is insane. And it was because we were there. To do Scully was insane. To be able to write and co-author the first Jamstack toolchain for Angular, to make it work with AngularJS, to make it work with React, Like those were all so fun, like initial projects to do. And now we're trying to VC that to try and make some enterprise features for it. So that's been a lot of fun. And then just working with Angular team on projects has been a lot of fun. So I know this sounds like just a brag sesh. It's not trying to be, it's trying to just be like, hey man, I just stepped in the room a couple times where things were happening. And next thing you know, people invite you to do crazy stuff that is going to change your career. And I feel really, really lucky. I'm not going to say blessed. And I know it's not something that will happen to everybody. And that's not fair. But this is what happened to me. And I hopefully, if anyone got inspired to say, hey, let me go write a blog, maybe I'll go give a talk, stuff like that. I would definitely recommend trying to teach other people. Early in my career, I gave a talk called Building Bridges. And I'm actually going to read the poem. There's a poem by Will Allen Dromgoole. Anyone from Utah is like laughing right now. They're like, dude, he's doing the bridge builder talk, because there's a local hero, Tom Monson, that talked about it one time. Anyway, let me share a different screen. Hold on. This is how, for me, this is what the community is. I'm going to share this poem. I'm going to read it because this is what giving talks, organizing meetups, writing books, authoring video courses. This is what it's about. It's about building bridges. I'm going to zoom in here real quick. So it says, an old man going a lone highway came at an evening cold and gray to a chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim, the solemn stream had no fear for him. But he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Old man, a fellow pilgrim near, you're wasting your time with building here. Your journey will end with this ending day. You'll never again pass this way. You cross the chasm deep and wide. Why build this bridge at eventide? The old builder lifted his head. The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I've come, he said. There followed after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been not for me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. They too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building this bridge for him. Anyway, that's for me, that's what community building is about. That's what giving talks is about. That's what helping out in your community is about. So you know things that other people don't know. You've crossed bridges other people haven't crossed. You've built a bridge to make things easy for someone else. So getting involved in the community is about doing that. And in a real chicken soup for the soul sense of that word, people just give back to you. You don't do it expecting them to. It's outrageous the type of things that people will give back to you. Like, you just give and give and give. And at least for me, and I again, privilege, you give and give and give, and people start to give back, and it's really, really inspiring, and you feel really, really lucky. So anyway, that's what I came to share tonight. So I'll give the time back to Erik.
Wow, that was incredible, Frosty.
Frosty, we have some questions for you.
Okay.
I was seeing some questions over there about, and honestly, I think everybody would like to know, how do you have the time to do everything that you do and still keep your skills sharp like that? So that's question number one. Mm-hmm. Question number two is, I guess I'm going to reword this a little bit. Someone was saying they would still always feel like they had imposter syndrome. In fact, I saw 2 or 3 people saying that. So my question for you, hopefully speaking for them, is how do you know when the time is right? Like, you put in all this prep, you still feel that imposter syndrome. So how do you know when it's finally the time to just jump in and go for it?
So the first question, how do you find the time? When I think it's okay to talk about mental health here. I'll open up. I'll get vulnerable. I had some stuff I needed to deal with in life. I had some trauma as a child, and that trauma kind of told me I wasn't good enough at a lot of things. couple that with an addiction for video games. Like it literally almost ruined my marriage. It was pretty intense. And I'm a young kid. Yeah, I want good things, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I just get lucky and I sell my Xbox and someone's like, dude, you learned SQL so fast. You should be a programmer. I just got lucky that someone made a drive-by compliment because I didn't have enough whatever it takes to believe in yourself. I didn't have enough of that, but someone for 5 seconds believed in me and said it as they walked on with their life and probably don't even remember that they said it. I was like, maybe I'll try programming. My addiction for video games completely replaced with programming. So what was like unhealthy was able to turn into like this really cool thing that helped me in life. That coupled with imposter syndrome, never feeling like I was enough. I made the time. And honestly, for this, I'm not gonna lie. I used to make it sound like, oh, anyone could do it. I did it. There was like 3 or 4 years where you don't laugh. There was a time when some of us programmers, raise your hand if you remember programming without Stack Overflow. Raise your hand. Like you used to have to have your friends who were programmers awake to help you through problems. So I was slow going at that time in life. But once Stack Overflow came out, and I was like, what? People will just help me for free in the middle of the night. I slept 3 hours a night for 3 years, maybe. I'd catch up on Saturdays and I'd overdose on caffeine in between the weeks. But that was what it took to kind of find the time. And it kind of bleeds into the second question. Brooke, I grew up a little bit, Brooke. I'm not gonna say all the way, but some wounds start to heal. And some of that, you're never gonna be good enough. You start to see past it. You're like, hey man, that was super effed up. No one should ever make me think that. And you get past that a little bit and you start to feel comfortable in your own skin a little bit. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, maybe I am good enough. And I think that's when I let the imposter syndrome, it's still here, but I've got a lot of practice with just going, that's stupid. I almost dropped the F-bomb there because it's just like, no, F that, dude. I don't listen to that anymore. I know that this is good enough. My best is good enough, and I'll give that. And so I'm not saying it's going to go away, but you do get better at screening it out, if that makes any sense. So
I'm going to add one more thing for you, though.
Okay.
If I can, tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. But I think you've done a tremendously good job at surrounding yourself with people who help you to be your best self and people who are as motivated as you are and are not toxic or draining. You know what I mean?
Brooke, I'm going to tell you, man, you do enough things. You step on some toes and you get to a part in life, Brooke, where you help a lot of people, but you're not even convinced that you're not toxic. Like it gets really confusing sometimes when you give your best and sometimes people are still like, that's not enough. You start to wonder, am I toxic? And you don't know, and you get too busy that you don't get to say thanks to enough people. Like late last year, Preston and I had a conversation because I didn't thank him for some of the stuff he had done for me. And it got really awkward. And that happens so many times. The more you try and do, and to steal a quote from Bilbo, when you scrape not enough butter across too much bread, that it's not as well covered as it should have been. And so sometimes you do leave some people feeling not well serviced. And so it is tough. It's tough to find a balance, but you're right. I've been, whatever has happened to me, no doubt I've been just lucky to surround myself with the right people. Like, I don't even know how that happened, to be honest. If you ask me, how'd you find these people? I don't know. I don't know how it happened. So, yeah.
All right.
Cool
Thank
answer.
you. And thanks everybody for your questions. Really is inspiring, man. Frosty's a great influence on the entire Angular community. So definitely follow him, listen to what he's got to say, and he's got a lot of good things to say. All right. Let me share the screen again, and we're going to do the fun part. Now, all of this has been fun. This is the part where you can earn some prizes, and also where we can just joke around and have a good time and see who's going to win the prize. See who's doing the best. Let's see. Share screen with all your faces on it. So before we do this segment, I just want to say thank you. We usually have a couple people drop off who aren't interested in competing, but just thank you, and please come to our next event. Our next event, at least for this series, the America's English series, is going to be in May on the 25th, and we're going to be honored to receive Mike Ryan and Mike Hardington, and also Jay Bell, who recently spoke for us. He will be giving a lightning talk. Okay, so go check out angularcommunity.net to see all the different events in a very convenient way. And then, as I said earlier, we will be launching a meetup event series for targeting Europe and Africa in English. And hopefully that will make it possible for more people to participate around the world. Let me also say, and you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to share something that's very personal to me as well. Okay. I'm working on a podcast, and there are 4 other people on this call today who are also joining me on this podcast. We got Brooke Avery, and Brooke and I are taking on the costs in producing this show. We've also got Preston Lamb and Yvonne Allen. Okay. If you thought Yvonne was astonishing today, wait till she speaks at the podcast. Okay. We also have Cecilia Martinez, who is the only one who's not here today, but that's okay. And Kate Sky, she's lurking in the chat, and she is incredible. And of course, Mitchie DeWitt. Oh, I don't think Mitchie's here today, is she?
No, but coincidentally, I think she just messaged me.
Oh, did she? She also runs the Angular San Diego. She also runs Women Who Code San Diego.
I think so. Yeah.
Which is incredible too. So, and then Preston Lamb, he is a great teacher and has a very prolific author. I aspire to write as many useful articles as Preston does for NG Champions. So if you guys are interested in a podcast that's about the Angular community and not specifically about technical stuff, but about ways to be a better human, help you enjoy your life more as a developer, and also focus on some Angular community specific things, this is going to be a podcast that will revolutionize your life. Anyway, I've taken enough time to talk about something that is very self-interested. But
just to clarify though, this is in no way something that's going to compete with the Angular show. Aaron does that far better than what any of us could do. So this is a podcast that will be about the community for the community. And there is not a link to subscribe yet. We are just in the process of getting our first handful of episodes recorded. But if you're interested in taking part of the show, you can definitely let Erik or myself know. And that'd be great. Come and be one of the first people on the new podcast. And we'd love to get to know you more.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brooke. And I some questions in here. How can we subscribe? We are launching in June. Look forward to all of those episodes. We are going to be recording this May. So, and we'll have guests like Aaron Frost, John Papa. We'll have all kinds of guests from the Angular community mostly, but also around the world.
Dave Shevitz this evening from the Angular team, so he'll be on there. We've got lots of great guests coming up.
Absolutely. All right, so that's enough about this. Let's get to your prizes. All right, here we go. So if you haven't done this before, I will throw a link into the chat and you can just join that way. So, or you can download the apps on your phone. Let's see, I think you just go to play.kahoot.it if you're on the computer, like we most likely are. And I want to remind you, keep your name something that I can recognize you as. And also, please make it appropriate, which we've never had an issue with, but I'd just like to remind everyone. If you win a prize today, you need to make sure you contact me. The best way to contact me is either through this chat It's a little weird though, because you might end up giving your email to everybody. So I'd prefer you can totally just send me a DM on Twitter too. Again, that's Erik_Slack. And I'll need your email address for communicating how to redeem your prize. Okay. Oh, hey, Kate. How's it going? All right, we got 26.
Kate like totally dominated at Kahoots the other day. We were all at NG Girls, and Kate was like,
I had to lose, so the actual people who are learning could win.
It was pretty funny.
What is NG Girls? Tell everybody about that, Brooke.
Oh, it was so much fun. I've heard about it ever since I joined ng-conf. Like, I've been part of it. I've just never really had the time to go. And this time I said, you know what? I don't have the time, but I'm still going to go. And it was literally the day before ng-conf. So I had to kind of bounce out for like half an hour of it just because we had ng-conf stuff going on. But it was so much fun. They have volunteers who come and mentor specifically women, and you apply to it. I think they probably took most of the applicants who applied, but I think you have to have at least some kind of understanding of Angular before. I think it'd be pretty hard if you just came in without any understanding, but they did actually do the weekend before like a crash course on HTML and CSS if you didn't have any background. So I think that was probably helpful for newbies. And then they just spend the entire day with you. They go through building an application. They've got this great, it's like Shmuela, the gal who started it, wrote this whole instruction list for creating your first to-do app. And then they set you up with instructors, like mentors and small groups. So it was kind of like a 2-on-3 scenario where we had 2 mentors with 3 attendees, and you can just ask any questions it was great. I loved it. The mentors were really helpful, just totally pleasant to be there. And I loved some of you'll probably see me doing some of those things for ng-conf workshops now, because I just thought they ran things in some pretty cool ways. So they had great ideas and great team of developers.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing about that. I would love to contribute to that at some point if they want.
Totally. Help. Yeah, I think they were looking for, and Kate, maybe you can fill in on that, but I think they were looking for mentors all the way up till pretty much that last week.
Yeah, they sure did. I think once it becomes in person, I think it's going to be the more the merrier, because people are kind of reserved asking questions because it's online. You don't really know if people are working or not. But right. Imagine all these people sitting, in the big conference room. I would just, I would be like asking all kinds of questions if people aren't available. So I'm pretty sure that they will take a lot of mentors next time. Because there was at least 80 people in participating, right?
Yeah.
At least.
Wow.
And another. Wow. Yeah, at least I think, but maybe including mentors too. But I think the best part of that workshop was the presentation that Shmuela did when her kids were in and out of her room, and how gracefully she just like kept talking through it. Like one of her babies wanted to nurse, and she was like gonna go off the video, and she just continued talking through and presenting the Angular stuff. It was really inspiring to watch. It was pretty cool.
That's incredible. Well, thank you for sharing about that, Brooke and Kate. That was fantastic. All right, let's get started. That was your chance. So here's the Angular Community Meetup prize contest for April. 3, 2, 1. All right, use blank if you want to ignore further emissions from the source observable until first inner completes. I only had so many words I could use.
Nice picture there.
I chose completely like random pictures.
I love
It's
it.
totally to distract you. This is to increase the difficulty. Also, I made some of the questions only give you 10 seconds, so you better watch. All right, let's see who's at the top. The fastest was Benj, and we got Checkits and Jason Neal, Rich, and Vidya.
I have to say hi to Rich. Rich is a friend. I haven't seen him in a little while.
Okay, you got 5 seconds left. Flat mat is not the same as SwitchMap. True or false? Ooh, pressure. All right, true. Flat map is not the same as SwitchMap. I tricked you. It is the same as which one? Who wants to shout it out? It is an alias for MergeMap. And if I'm wrong about that, please tell me. Benj is still in the lead. What is the official name of the Angular JSON file? It's either the Angular Workshop config, Angular Workspace config, Angular Workspace file, Angular Workshop file. Okay, we got all 31 answers. Wonder why it doesn't just go. Skip. Well done. 21 of you got it right. It's the Angular Workspace file. Thanks, Yvonne. I never knew that. Ooh, Checkits. You have proceeded to place number 1, followed by Vidya, Chow, Rich, and Cher Grogu.
I love it.
All right, true or false? Projects can refer to applications or libraries. I guess projects taken out of context could refer to a lot of things. Oh, wow. Oh, there's 32 people in here. My bad to the one person.
Sad.
Yeah. All right. Checkits is maintaining the lead. Good job. Libraries can't, I'll have to read this one, be reused across projects and other libraries. Can't, can be built. That was a failure. Let's just say libraries can't be built. How about that? Can't be consumed by other libraries, or can't contain applications. The correct answer was they can't contain applications. Libraries can link to other libraries all day. Applications can link to libraries. Not the other way around.
Oh.
That was not the best worded question. I apologize. I do my best to do things on the fly. True or false? Projects in the Angular JSON file can be SVGs, libraries, or applications. I really hope I trapped some of you on this one. Yes, I got almost a third of you. It is me against you right now. Let's see where we go. Rich, congratulations.
Rich.
You're
Nice.
on top, followed by Chow, GDE Chow, Vidya, Julia, Carl S. Chow, that's amazing. All right, true or false? The Angular community is most active on Facebook.
Oh boy, do I know the answer to this. Oh.
You guys are doing fantastic. All right, we got one holdout here. I'm gonna wait the whole second though.
Meh.
Do I have to get a
No.
Facebook account? No, but if you want to use an Oculus Quest 2, you do. All right. Next
have
up,
to get a
and
Facebook
the correct answer was Twitter, right?
Yes.
Twitter is where Angular community seems to thrive right now. Also Discord. That's not really social media. Okay, Rich,
is.
in the lead. Is it? Okay.
Yep.
This one's a multi-select. Good ways to get involved in the community. Select all. If anyone
Can you
gets this
select
wrong,
multiple?
you totally can.
I didn't know that.
If you can't, then everyone will get this question wrong. Yvonne says you can.
Okay.
But
Yvonne.
at least we'd all be on the same page.
Right? Bye, Chow. Thanks for joining
Bye.
us today. Come again next month.
Oh, but he was like in one of the leader.
He was in one of the leads, huh? But he's
Oh,
not
no.
competing. All right. Top of the list is Rich, followed by Vidya, Carl, Julia, and Michael. GDE program is for people who already act like a GDE in the community. True or false? I choose Lighthouse. Well done, everyone. All right, here we go. Last question. Select good ways to learn something in technical depth. check all that are true. Did you all notice how the last question said check all because all were true?
Hint, hint.
Right? Well done. Okay. Next.
That was it, wasn't it?
That's it. Let's see who's the third place was Rich.
Oh, really? I was thinking I was first place.
Second place, Blair L.
Blair.
First place,
Dun, dun, dun.
AS.
Who
I don't
is
know what AS
AS?
is.
As.
As.
Akita?
What's up, As?
As.
That's a key word in JavaScript.
Andrea. Andrea, what's your last name?
Oh, Andrea. Okay. So I am going to take the top 5 winners and contact each of you. Let's see, though. I need to get the bigger list. AS, Blair, Rich, and Vidya, and Carl S. So each of you, okay, it will capture any email addresses we find here. And then people who don't want to share their email address this way can also share directly with me on Twitter, and I will reach out to the right people to get the prizes delivered. So thank you everybody for coming today. You're all fantastic. Don't forget to reach out and give me your email if you want a prize. These top 5 people all want a prize. And I will also be making a leaderboard on our website to honor you for the rest of the month as winners in this quiz.
Nice. Great idea.
It's going to be fun.
That is going to be fun. You could even do like a collective, well, like a running total. So if they come back and they get more points next month, then like, I don't know, you do a grand winner every so often.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Something. We'll come up with.
Give them a special title and maybe even buy a trophy for them.
Okay, I like it.
I want to thank everybody. You all were fantastic. Please come again next month.